stories about Christmas. Am I correct? Christmas stories. Whew. All right. Without further ado. I like that term, don't you? Without further ado. We're going to, oh, by the way, my name is Dan Sticka. I'm the MC. Remain seated. I'll tell you when to stand. We have an order of storytelling tonight, and the first storyteller is Dave Gourdoux. Dave suffers from agoraphobia, the abnormal fear of leaving one's house while wearing a wool sweater. He's the author of Ojibwe Valley. Can I tell you, I'm also a book author? When Lincoln Met Wisconsin's Nightingale is the title of my book. Thank you very much. Hold the applause till later. One of my groupies in the audience here. Where did I? Ojibwe Valley is a novel, a contributing writer to Second First Look, an arts-oriented website, and he hosts his own website, Drivel by Dave. Help me introduce this wonderful individual, Dave Gourdoux.
Thank you. Can you hear me back there? This story takes place in December of 1972. The setting is a high school cafeteria where a table of 4 freshmen, seated in a row on the same side of an otherwise empty table, suddenly and unexpectedly found themselves surrounded by greasers. Greasers was a term used at the time for the thugs, the hoods, legitimate badasses who had a reputation in our small town for bullying and trouble. The leader of the greasers was a guy named Earl Kowalski, who had a well-earned reputation for being the meanest and craziest and cruelest badass in town. Now, I was one of the freshmen. Look at me now, you might find this hard to believe, but I was small, maybe the smallest kid in my class. I was 5'2" and weighed 95 pounds, sopping wet. There was one part of my anatomy, though, that was disproportionately large. And no, it wasn't that, unfortunately. Rather, it was my mouth. I had a big mouth that I shut off constantly with no regard for consequence. I was a smart ass, my big mouth constantly running checks that my puny little body couldn't cash. And I ended up too often in trouble I had no business getting into. So anyway, so that day I was one of the freshmen, and we were all sitting in a row. I was on the far left. There was freshman 1, freshman 2, freshman 3, and myself. And suddenly these greasers just appeared and surrounded our table, very threatening, very claustrophobic. And so Earl Kowalski himself was there, so he gets up and he says, "You know what, guys? It just don't feel much like Christmas this year, does it? I've been trying to figure out why, and I think I finally figured out why it don't feel much like Christmas. It's because we ain't had any Christmas music. Nothing gets in the Christmas spirit like Christmas music, right?" And they all grunted their agreement. And so Earl says, "We're going to change that today. We're going to get us some Christmas music, and we're going to get us in the Christmas spirit." So then he went up to freshman 1 over here and says, "Kid, I want you to get up on this table and sing us a Christmas song. And if you don't, we're going to kick your ass." So freshman 1 says, "Oh, golly gee whiz there, Earl, I don't know. I'm awfully shy by nature. It'd be too embarrassing. Find somebody else, will you?" And with that, the greasers converged around freshman 1, and they beat the crap out of him. Just beat him into submission until he was a crumpled heap laying there on the floor. And blood and tears are oozing out of his body and draining and starting to pool right there in the floor of the cafeteria. And for freshman 1, he was broken, bruised, battered, beaten. There's one more B, I can't think of it right now. bloodied. I think I forgot bloodied. So anyhow, so it was a disgusting sight, you know. So then Earl walks up to freshman 2 and he says, "Kid, either you sing a Christmas song, get up on this table and sing a Christmas song, or we're going to kick your ass." Which freshman 2 replied, "I don't think that's going to happen, Earl. You see, my religion strictly forbids such enthusiastic displays of enthusiasm as singing Christmas songs." So the greasers converge my freshman 2 and they just pound the living crap out of them. It's a horrible sight. There's nothing. All that's left of freshman 2 is a pile of gelatinous goo. And they take them and they throw them on top of the crumpled heap that was freshman 1. So now the crumpled heap is 2 freshmen deep. And blood and perspiration and tears are oozing out of both their bodies and intermingling and draining and forming a puddle right there on the cafeteria floor. And poor freshman 2, he's broken, he's bloody, bruised, battered, bent. I think that's all the bees. So now there's only 2 freshmen left. There's myself and freshman 3. And sure enough, Earl walks up to freshman 3 and says, "Kid, either you get up on this table and sing us a Christmas song, or we're going to kick your ass." His freshman 3, of course, replies, "I'm sorry, Earl. I got kind of a scratchy throat and a hoarse voice today. I think I'm coming down with a little bit of a fever. Can I take a rain check, please, huh? Rain check?" And of course, the greasers converge on freshman 3, and they just pound him into submission, into oblivion. There's nothing left of freshman 3 but about 150 broken pieces of him laying there on the floor. And one of the greasers comes out with a shovel. We already got a shovel in the middle of the cafeteria, and he shovels up the broken pieces, and he throws them on top of the crumpled heap. So now the crumpled heap is 3 freshmen tall. And I remember I'm only 5'2" at the time, so the crumpled heap is almost as tall as I am. Making it an even more intimidating sight. So now Earl's approaching me on the last freshman standing, all 5'2", 95 pounds of me. And Earl comes up to me and says, "Kid, I want you to..." And he stopped. In mid-sentence, he stopped. The reason he stopped was he looked up and I wasn't there anymore. I was up on that table. I was halfway through the first verse of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Now this was December of 1972, and the television airwaves at the time were dominated by the cheesiest and the schmaltziest of all entertainment venues, the Celebrity Christmas Show. And they had these horrible Vegas-style singers like Wayne Newton, Tony Orlando, Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr., and all these horribly schmaltzy Vegas-style acts. But I watched every single one of them, and as bad as they were informing my performance. So I'm singing my very soulful ballad version of Rudolph, and I'm putting everything into it. I look down at the greasers, and they're all like this. They're all completely confused. They never, no kid had ever gotten up and sang before. You know. No kid had low enough self-esteem to get up there and humiliate himself. And not only was I up there humiliating myself, I was enjoying it. You know? So they had no idea what to do. They were good at one thing, that was kicking people's ass. But otherwise, they were completely befuddled. And I'm singing, I'm putting my heart, and I mastered that one trick of the cheesy, schmaltzy shows where they had the sudden shift in tempo, where they took a slow ballad, and so they made it swing, made it rock. So you know the part of Rudolph that goes, "Rudolph, with your nose so bright, won't you guide my sleigh tonight?" Hey, so I'm throwing in haze and woes and baby. And I get to the end of the song, and I've sang my song, so I should be done, right? But they're all still flabbergasted, so I figure as long as I'm up on that table, they're not kicking my ass. So the show must continue. So I told a little joke I worked up just for the occasion. In the joke, I'm Rudolph, and I say, you know, I just flew in from the North Pole, and boy, are my antlers tired. Thank you. Better reaction I got from the greasers. So I dived right into my second song. I did Jingle Bells, and I'm dashing through the snow, and I'm slaying whatever the hell they do in that stupid song. And I get done with that, and there's still... So I look at the clock and water, there's still a little bit of time left in lunch period, so I launched my version of Deck the Halls. I'm really giving it all I got. I'm really swinging. And then the bell rings in the middle of a fa la la la. The bell rings and I'm saved by the bell. Lunch period's over, so I immediately say, well, folks, that's all the time we have tonight. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I'm here all week. Good night and drive safely. And with that, I hopped off the table. I was met by a wall of greasers. And so I tapped one on the shoulder. And much to my amazement, the greasers parted like I was Charlton Heston and they were the Red Sea. And I walked through them. No, I strutted through them. I strutted through them as if I was walking out on a red carpet, and I walked past them and past the crumpled heap of the other 3 freshmen that were still laying there, and their pool of blood that had coagulated and hardened by now. I walked right out into the afternoon, saved by the bell, and spared the wrath of the greasers. Now the next day, to close this thing up real quick, the next day I walk into the cafeteria, the pool of blood and the crumpled heaps are all gone. There's no sign of them. No sign of the other 3 freshmen either, so I figured they're in a hospital somewhere in various degrees of traction. I'm feeling pretty good. I'm feeling good about my performance the day before. And who do I see approaching but Earl Kowalski and 3 or 4 of his greaser sidekicks? I think, oh shit. But then it occurred to me, I'm not afraid of these guys anymore. So what if they kick my ass? I got 2 older brothers who have given me worse ass kickings than this guy could ever give me. You recover them from them. So I'm not afraid. And no matter what they do to me, you can never take away the fact that yesterday I got up on that table and I swung, baby. I rocked that place. So Earl comes up to me and says, hey kid. I said, oh great, here it comes. He says, I just want to let you know how much I enjoyed your show yesterday. I said, well, thanks, Earl. He says, and the other greasers kind of started telling me, and they agreed to tell me how good it was and what a command I had of the room and so on. And then Earl says, kid, your show was so good. I think every kid in the school ought to have the chance to see it. I said, well, thank you, Earl. It's the nicest thing anybody's ever said to me. And it was the nicest thing anybody had ever said to me. And it was Earl Kowalski of all people saying it. So I'm feeling pretty good, and the other greasers are all telling me how good my show is, and I'm basking in a moment. And for a second I closed my eyes. I felt my feet leave the ground, and I was floating on their accolades. And I'm thinking next year it'll be the Bob Hope Christmas special. The Bing Crosby Christmas special. And now there's going to be the Dave Gourdoux Christmas special. And I'll have Ricardo Montalban on as my first guest. And next thing you know, I felt some strange force pull my arms high above my head. I opened my eyes and realized I wasn't floating at all. One of the greasers had a hold of my legs and one had my arms, and they were carrying me out the room, outside the cafeteria into the hallway beyond. And there in the hallway, all the other greasers were waiting for us. And they took me and lifted me high above their heads, which is pretty easy because they're only 95 pounds. And it was like I was body surfing in a mosh pit. And they moved me to the other side of the hallway where the big rectangular doors to the gymnasium were. And I never noticed before, but high above the door on the wall, there's a little hook that protruded out. And they lifted me up as high as they could until my belt loop snagged on that hook. So I was standing there suspended by my belt loop, high above the hallway below. And Earl says, kid, looks like you're gonna be there for a while. So if I were you, I'd start singing now. And with that, Earl and all the greasers went into the cafeteria, left me alone in the hallway. But I soon realized that Earl was right about one thing, because down the hallway, the next lunch period was coming towards me, and the hallway was filled with thousands of kids, it looked like. And I realized every kid, in order to get to the cafeteria, every kid in the school would have to walk past those doors of the gymnasium. So Earl was right that every kid would get a chance to see my show. So if any of you were in Union Grove High School in 1972 and you have some vague recollection of some 5'2", 95-pound, scrawny-ass kid hanging from his belt loop above the gymnasium door singing Christmas songs at the top of his lungs, that was me.
I don't know about you, but I'm in the holiday spirit right now, aren't you? Oh, I can't wait to get going. What a marvelous story. Whew. I'm depressed. All right, I don't know how we're going to top this. This is really good.